Hello, my name is Tyler Page, and welcome to week one of Brighter Financial Futures for Our Special Needs Children. This is a collaboration between VistaPoints and strategic financial partners. I see a lot of familiar names that have registered and a lot of new ones I cannot wait to meet. This course is meant to inform parents of special needs children that there are resources out there to help you out. Today's presentation will be done by Alicia Talbot, who is the Executive Director of the Down Syndrome Association of Middle Tennessee. Then we will have a panel of parents to see how they have dealt with the needs of their special needs children. After the panel is done, we will open up for questions from the audience. If you have a question, please press the hand button at the bottom of the screen and I will call on you to speak. I will let Alicia take it from here. Enjoy, y'all.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Emmerling. I'm with Special Needs or VistaPoint Special Needs Trust and Resource Center. And week one is entitled Challenges for Those with Special Needs. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Alicia Talbot. I'd like to give you a little bit of her background. Alicia is a mother of two children, a boy and a girl, one middle-ager and one teenager. Her daughter is older and on the autism spectrum. She experiences PTSD and depression, and her son is 3 years younger, has Down syndrome, autism, PANDAS, type 1 diabetes, and severe apnea. Alicia became the executive director of DSAMT, which stands for Down Syndrome Association of Middle Tennessee, in 2012. After spending several years as an active member and volunteer in her organization and in the disability community, she received a BA and MA from Western Kentucky University, taught at Nashville State and Volunteer State Community colleges, directed marketing at Passport Health Communications, and was a freelance marketing professional before joining DSAMT. Ms. Talbot in 2016 received the National Business Journal's Award for Woman of the Year. She is also involved in the National Down Syndrome Advocacies Coalition and a member of NDSS DS Ambassador. Please welcome Alicia Talbot. Now, Alicia, we're going to be asking all of our panelists a series of 3 questions. And I think you have an idea of where I'm going to go with these. So I'll just ask the question and let you respond in about 3.5 minutes. First question is, what were the emotional adjustments that you and your family experienced?
Single day. On a day-to-day basis, it's very difficult in a lot of ways. My husband and I sometimes say, we probably have a little PTSD just from the difficulties of daily living. But the kind of long-term emotional joy has far outweighed that to where, at the end of the day, we're putting everybody in bed and we're smiling again. So yeah, it's been, there are ups and downs, of course, with any child. And that's what I always get to tell new parents. It doesn't matter the disability part. You just have different worries.
That's right. As a parent, how did you balance the care aspect versus the need to do research?
Well, fortunate for me, both for Down syndrome and autism, there is just numerous resources that are available. Connecting to other families who have been there, done that is by far the best option. And then going from there to really who the experts are. And in both autism and Down syndrome, of course, there's such a wealth of knowledge in other parents and other organizations, most of which are run by or have employed lots of other parents who have children. So the knowledge base is totally out there. The support is totally out there. It's just a matter of getting yourself involved, really.
Okay, and what one thing would you tell other parents on how to help them succeed in finding resources?
So I would tell them lots of things. But the first thing I would tell them is to put themselves out there. None of us are alone in this. And I think that's the first hurdle that most parents go through whenever there's a diagnosis, regardless of what that diagnosis is. It could be leukemia. You're still, I think initially kind of our intuitive response is to feel very alone. But you got to break out of that. And you got to say, I can't be the only one, because you're not. And find, reach out to anybody. One of the big surprises to me, I think, as a parent, was how tight knit, how close the communities are. I have a number of parents that I could reach out to, and they're all willing to help anybody. So he's turned the TV on, so I'll cut that a little bit short so I can turn that back off. But really, there's just I just say to reach out, and it doesn't matter to who you reach out. Somebody knows somebody. There are so many folks. You just find somebody, and if you don't click with that person, find somebody else, because once you've experienced raising a child with a disability, you know how helpful those people can be, because they understand what you're going through, and they can really help guide you to the accurate resources and information.
You did tell me when we were talking previously that you talked about being able to have the dignity to risk. And can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so there's a wonderful phrase in the disability world called dignity of risk. And it's one of the things that I often talk about with parents, and I just don't hear it very much. But we talk a lot about how important it is to maintain high expectations for our children. And we're very quick to be defensive of those high expectations if someone else has a lower expectation of what they should go through. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good, because it's the Christmas Who bill. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas is what he's watching. And so if all the noise is too much, I can do something about that. But I think parents, sometimes we have lower expectations, not intentionally. And I think it's intuitive to try to be very protective of our children. But they have a right to experience failures the same that we all do. And I think it's important that they experience those. My kid needs to fall off a ladder once. He's going to have to learn, if he tries to climb the fence, he might get a splinter. And that's really the concept of dignity of risk. Eventually someone is going to make fun of him. But you know what? Someone made fun of me one time, and I had to figure out how to handle that. And if we protect our children and adults so much so, they don't learn how to handle those situations. Even if the only handle is go tell an adult, they need to learn to go tell an adult. And it's not just for their own sense of inclusion in the community and sense of self-confidence, but safety as well. To know, if I experience something and I fail, I can get help. And here's how I go about doing that. So yeah, I think that's one thing that doesn't get talked about enough.
We appreciate your insights and your willingness to join us today. And I'm sure a lot of our attendees are going to be able to relate to your situation, and maybe some of us will not be able to relate to it. But because we can hear your son in the background, we have some sense of maybe what normal in your household is. So I think it's very enlightening to me, for sure.
Well, I appreciate it.
We thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
Our next parent is Julie Turner, and it's my pleasure to introduce Julie to all the attendees. In the last couple of days, I've become very familiar with her situation, and Julie herself, a very nice lady. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Julie Turner to you. Julie has been married for 24 years. She is the mother of a 13-year-old daughter. Julie's beautiful daughter was a full-term baby, and initially everything seemed fine, but after a while, Julie's doctor told her that her daughter was slow in development, which later became intellectually delayed. It was also determined after further testing that she had OCD, anxiety, and was on the autism spectrum. Julie states that her husband and their faith in God has been the force that has given her all that she needs, and the blessings show up just when the family needs them the most. Julie loves and appreciates the support in her community, the wonderful church family, friends, teachers, counselors, therapists, and doctors that have had such a positive impact in her daughter's development and improvement. Another major support for Julie and her family was her pediatrician, whom she adores and trusts. Julie is humble, but she is also passionate and persistent when it comes to her daughter's care. She found out about an organization called SPARK, S-P-A-R-K, for autism, SPARK for Autism. And through that connection, found out that there are free services and DNA testing for her daughter. It was a new beginning and an answer to further revelations. They have provided webinars and seminars through SPARK's genetics, helped her discover some key answers about her daughter's condition. Julie and her daughter both enjoy singing in the church choir, and Julie's daughter loves to sing and is the youngest member of the adult choir at church. Please welcome Julie Turner. Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Julie, what were the emotional adjustments that you and your family kind of experienced through this process?
There were many. Childbirth, all in itself, is emotional. As an older mom, I was 41 years old when I gave birth. As to, I guess, sadness, you have lots of concern, lots of worry. As she got older and diagnosis did come to me, a lot of feelings of failure. I felt like maybe it was my fault because I was of my age and I have, put this on my child. Anger, just a myriad of emotions that you go through when you especially, learn of the diagnosis. But as you said, and I've mentioned, my faith has really been the foundation of this journey because I feel blessed to have this child and God doesn't make mistakes. So you just adjust every day, a step at a time, and take the disabilities and try to turn them around into what are her positives? What is she successful at? What is she good at? And so from the time she was little up into 13, I try to involve her in things so that she could learn as time goes on what she enjoyed and what would help her make friends and be successful.
That's a beautiful response, and she's lucky she's got a mama bear. I know she's got to feel blessed to have you and your husband as parents. So
she's 13, so
yeah,
no,
you have a teenager. Yeah, there is that. So as a parent, how did you balance the care aspect versus all the research time you probably had to spend?
I was lucky the first few years to be a stay-at-home mom. So whatever issues had come up, through a doctor, through a counselor, I was able to get to the computer when she would take a nap or at nighttime when the house was quiet and everybody is asleep. I made phone calls, like Alicia had said. You reach out to anybody that you can reach out to that might give you direction, or just somebody to talk to sometimes, just to hear an adult, because it was, I was with a child all day long. So needing the adult conversation it was something that helped me as well. But I always carried, and especially when I started to work, carried paper and pencil. My mind is always working constantly on how can I not necessarily fix this, but what can I do to help her improve this aspect, or this issue has come up. What can I do to help her overcome this? And so I'm always making notes. And at the end of the day, when I got home and everyone was in bed, the house is quiet, then I can go back and look over my notes and go, okay, well, tomorrow I need to do this, or let me send this email and reach out to this person. Mm-hmm. So that's how I learned kind of a little bit of balance in research, and lots of questions would come up. I might send an email to the pediatrician or to the counselor with, several things listed. So, when she was small, it was kind of an easy balance. When you add work to it and you have both parents that are working, it's more of a nighttime balance.
Mm-hmm. I could certainly understand that. So what one thing would you tell other parents to help them succeed through this process, finding resources?
I can't say one thing. There are so many things to help a parent. I think the most important thing in my heart would be be an advocate for your child. Take that disability and try to be as positive with it as you can be, because that child has abilities. Mm-hmm. They may have some disabilities, but they have abilities as well. And trying to, for lack of a better word, I can't think, trying to find those abilities that they have so that they can feel good about themselves. One thing that tremendously helped me was organization. I have everything in a notebook from the time she was born to the day she's 13. I have a notebook that has everything so I can just reach for it. All my information is in one place. Knowing your IEP, knowing your IEP team is there to help you organize and put into the IEP that is what's going to work best for your child during, especially elementary years. It's a foundation. I was absolutely overwhelmed the first IEP meeting that I sat down to. When I walked in the door, 9 people are sitting at a conference table, and I wanted to turn around and run, because that's very overwhelming. Don't let it be overwhelming, because these people are here to help you help your child be successful. Your teachers, use your teachers. Bless my teachers' hearts. I was there either every day or every other day or a few times a week saying, how did she do this week? Is there anything that I can help work on at home to help her catch up during the day so that she won't feel like she's fallen behind? The teachers want to help you. Have a good relationship with them. Don't be, I don't want to say afraid or maybe timid. Don't be timid. Go to them. Let them help you. Mm-hmm. I guess that was my biggest. If I hadn't had the teachers' support, I would have not had any way of knowing where she was in her class time and what she was missing. Maybe she
Right.
needed to learn to read better than what the other kids were. So that's something that we worked on, at home.
Wonderful. That's an excellent recommendation. Well, I want to thank all of our panelists again. I know I have learned a great deal in the last 30 minutes. At this point, I want to ask Tyler, do we have any questions from the attendees at this point?
Just a reminder, y'all, just press the hand button at the bottom of the screen and we'll call on you. We did have some questions that were emailed into us. The first question is, as a parent, how did you balance the care aspect with your research time needed?
I think we kind of addressed that with all of our panelists.
Okay.
That was our second question.
It looks like there's no questions currently. Okay.
Tyler, I have a question.
Okay, perfect.
In fact, I have three. Julie said that she emailed her doctors. And I know when I email my doctors, I don't get responses right away. So I was wondering with Scott and Alicia, how quickly do doctors respond?
Do you want me to go first? I think I hit the unmute
Sure.
button first. I got you, Scott. I win. One of the things that happened very early on with my children is that I switched pediatricians and looked far and wide for a pediatrician who would be responsive, and became very tight with her. To the point where I had her cell phone. She was that willing to accommodate me. So I have always had very good responses with physicians. Their pediatrician's office, in fact, there's a little flag by their name that says they don't sit well in the waiting room. So don't leave them in the waiting room for an extended period of time. And mom may need some help because behaviorally we have issues. And by the way, the appointment is going to be longer automatically for my kids because of the complexity. And so those were things that were fortunate for us built into that practice, but I had to look for that. And I found that because I talked to other parents and I said, where are you taking your child? And what do you like about your doctor? And then I went and met doctors and chose the one that I liked. Now, unfortunately, she now practices in Knoxville and is not around, but we have now left that practice to find somebody who does respond, within a very timely fashion, because with complex medical issues, you need that. You'll go nuts, I think, not knowing what would happen with your child. And so I think there are a very limited number of providers who will give you that kind of customer service or care. But just like anything else, I had to invest in that relationship, just like I did with teachers and just like I did with, the Boy Scout leaders and the community leaders. So, it's a two-way street, but I would suggest you talk to other parents and find those doctors because they're out there.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I've got a follow-up question for maybe all three of you. I'm a mother of 5 and I don't have special needs children, but I understand the times taking care of any child is very stressful. How do you manage the relationship with your spouse? How do you make time for each other?
Anybody? Any volunteers?
That is a job in itself. My family lives about 2.5 hours away. So we have the ability to go to Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge overnight. So it's asking my mother, is there any possible way that you could keep her for overnight so we can get away?
Mm-hmm.
Or after, children go to bed, have a nice, quiet, candlelit dinner for each other. Try to remember each other through the day with, a sweet note in the morning before he goes off to work, or, he can bring a flower home and just say, I appreciate all that you do. it's a job. That's a job in itself.
Very nice.
Yeah, I have a perspective. So my husband and I have had, this February was our 20th wedding anniversary. And we went to dinner together in a restaurant for the first time in 3 years. We have never, since the children have been born, been alone. With one exception, we got a hotel room. We had my sister stay here at the house. We went up the street, literally, to a hotel. And I sat in bed and watched TV, and he was in the bathroom, and he came out, and I was asleep, and he went to sleep, and we got up the next morning. So I'm not very good at, and I miss the concept of vacation. We decided some years ago that traveling and the kind of the typical things that you think of when you think about what you do with your spouse just aren't going to happen. So we bought a hot tub. And on rare occasions, when they're both asleep at the same time, we sneak outside, or I go outside if he's handling the kids. And I think, Julie, I mean, when I get up in the morning, my husband has already pushed the button on my Keurig. And even if it's an hour later, when I get out of bed and I have to microwave that cup of coffee, I mean, I tell him over and over, you have no idea what it means that you made a cup of coffee for me, because my children, we go through that bucket filler, what do you call it? Not simile, but metaphor, the bucket filler metaphor. And there's a little book for preschool kids, and everybody has a bucket, and then it starts out full in the morning, and then you give and give and give and give, and your bucket's empty. And so we just have to try to figure out really creative ways to fill each other's buckets, because, we're not sleeping in the same beds. We're not, spending much time together. But, we record the new Law and Order series, and, at 10 o'clock at night, when we're barely awake, I'm going, come on, we're going to watch this together. And so we just make it, you have to make it happen sometimes in those ways. There are some great resources. Okay, there are some resources in Tennessee through some of the organizations. I know the Tennessee Respite Coalition. You can fill out an application and ask for something that would be helpful. I asked for a massage, and so they sent me a gift certificate for $300, and so I'm going to get at least 3 massages out of this. And I know it seems like a little thing, right? And in the grand scheme of my life, it's not that big of a, it's not making that much of a difference. But wow, I cannot wait for Friday at 3:30, and no one else will be with me. So, but there are other things like that available too.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, Alicia. That's awesome. Well, I think it might be time to wrap this up. It's been a real pleasure getting to know all of you, and we thank you once again for participating in this wonderful presentation.
Yeah, thanks all for attending. If you know anyone else who would want to attend our next webinars, please let them know. You do not need to be on all of them to know what is going on. So it's not, you won't miss anything if you didn't miss this one. So we look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. See y'all.
Bye.